I know this is going to be very controversial, but I just want everyone to hear me out. Please.
Hope you like scary movies. You're in one.
Hello friends, it is Dalton. Welcome back to my channel today. Today I'm going to be giving my review over Halloween Ends. What a movie. So I'm filming this on October 17th. I saw the movie on Thursday when it released on Peacock. I watched it here at home. I did not go to the theaters because I really do not like going over to the movie theaters to go and watch a movie. That's just me. There will be spoilers for Halloween Ends. I'm not going to give a spoiler for review. This is my spoiler review for this movie. As someone who is an avid horror fan and someone who is such a big fan and lover of the Halloween franchise, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Not to say there wasn't anything wrong with this movie, because this movie did have quite a few pros and cons. In my opinion, it had more pros than it did cons, but we'll get into all that. So I made an entire list of everything that I loved about the movie and everything I was like, what was the reason? So we're gonna go ahead and start with the cons first, just so we can get all that out of the way and we can end this video on a good note. The first problem that I had with Halloween Ends was it felt rushed. There were some cuts between scenes where it felt like there wasn't a lot of things explained, and that was just me. I don't know if that was everybody else that felt that way, but that was just me. There's certain scenes where they were cut at, I felt like they could have been extended longer so you could get a more explanation of what was going on, why a certain character was there doing what they were doing. Second thing is, I didn't feel like there was enough Michael Myers. Now granted, I know the whole Corey storyline was supposed to be Corey is the new Michael. And I do love the whole Corey aspect, him becoming the new Michael. That's part of my pros. But I didn't feel like there was enough of Michael himself in the movie. Also, I just want to say, please no hate in my comments. These are just my opinions. You feel free to feel about the movie as I do. If you hated the movie, if you didn't like it, that is perfectly fine. Do not hate me for my opinions and how I felt about this movie, please. My third problem that I had with this movie, which kind of goes back to the first, I didn't feel like there was a lot of explaining for a certain action that a character was doing and as to why they were doing it. I just didn't feel like there was enough explanation. I feel like they could have given us a little bit more backstory on certain characters' actions, why they were doing what they were doing and how they were doing it. The third thing I didn't like, which this is basically the only character-driven thing I didn't like besides there not being enough Michael to me in this story. At the end where Laurie and Michael are on the fight and she has Michael pinned down to the table like a pincushion, he rips his hand out of the knife and grabs Laurie by the throat after she's already done all of this work to get Michael pinned down on the table with knives in his hands, the refrigerator pushed on this man to where he can't move. Whenever he rips his hand out of the knife and chokes her, that's when she's like, okay, yeah, I give up. I'm done. Just do it. Like, you went through all this work to get this man to where you could end it, and he takes you by the throat for one last time, and you're like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done. That was the only really character thing in the movie. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Laurie would not be someone to do that. She's been through hell for 44 years fighting demons and going through her trauma and seeking therapy, that she would just end it right there. It didn't make any sense to me. Last con that I had for this movie, and this is just me being weird and picky with how I am about sets in movies. The whole atmosphere and vibe of this movie, it did not feel like Haddonfield to me. I have no idea why. I know the first movie is filmed in California and the 2018 movie was filmed in North Carolina. Why didn't they just go back to North Carolina to film the movie? Halloween Ends was filmed in Savannah, Georgia. They look like two very different towns. I can't explain it, but the set of Savannah as Haddonfield, it just did not look like how I envision Haddonfield to look. Does that make any sense? Again, this just me being weird and having a personal preference with sets and being very picky about them. That was just me. I didn't feel like the town looked like Haddonfield at all. Okay, now let's get into the pros of the movie, which I loved. The opening sequence. When I first watched it, and Corey kicks the door down, and the kid is falling down the stairwell, and then boom, he's dead. My mouth was literally on the floor the whole time I was watching it. Had to be one of the coolest openings to any Halloween movie in the entire franchise. The fact that he killed a kid by kicking a door down, the thought is just so funny to me. That poor kid. I forgot his name, sorry. Those poor parents. And the scene where the mom is facing the camera and then you see the kid fall all the way to the ground in the background, I couldn't help but laugh just a little bit. It was just a little comedic for me. Next thing I absolutely loved with this movie was Laurie's character and her screen time, minus her giving up at the end almost, just because Michael got a hold of her. But I feel like Laurie's character and progression since Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, it really shows what seeking mental help can do for somebody. That's one thing I loved about this movie. Also, the talk of mental health and what can happen when you get yourself help that you need. That's one thing I loved about this movie. I'm a very huge advocate for mental health and trying to better yourself. And for a character like Laurie that has gone through all this trauma over the last 44 years of her life, that has dealt with this ever since she was 17, 18 years old, for her to finally find peace in life, I loved that aspect, that you don't have to live in your trauma, that you can make yourself a person no matter how many years later. Boo, stop it. As someone who has gone through, obviously not a serial killer trying to attack me for 44 years, but someone who has gone through some pretty traumatizing things and has bettered myself and trying to live better for myself, I really relate to Laurie's character in that way. And I'm very, very happy that that's the route they went with in this movie as a final send-off to this wonderful, wonderful final girl that Laurie Strode is. And the screen time we got with her. I feel like we got a lot of screen time with this woman. Now, I know that this movie was mainly focused on Corey, but this did feel like a perfect movie for Laurie's send-off. I feel like we got just the right amount of time with this woman from the very beginning to the very end of the film. And can we just talk about Jamie Lee Curtis and her acting skills? All these years later, that woman never went to acting school or film school. She calls herself an untrained actor because she never went to any kind of schooling or anything like that. And to be such a talent and wonderful person, and I just love Jamie Lee Curtis as it is. I love what she stands for. I love the kind of person that she is. I love her activism, and I think her acting, I mean, come on, 10 out of 10. Next up, the soundtrack. The score for this movie was unlike anything we have ever seen in any Halloween film ever. And that was another thing I loved about this movie. The score was so different. It felt like an action movie in some parts. The part where Corey and Allison are on the motorcycle together, the music playing behind that was just like jaw-dropping and mesmerizing. Like my eyes were glued to the screen because of the score. Because of the score. I'm pretty sure John Carpenter did the score on this movie. Hang on. John Carpenter did score Halloween Ends. And it was just beautiful. Chef's kiss, John Carpenter. Round of applause for you. Another thing I loved about this movie was the homage that this movie paid to Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. The opening sequence included the same font that they used in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, and it just took my breath away. I'm so glad that they're paying tribute and showing attention and paying respect to Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, because that movie is amazing, and I'm so tired of people shitting on it and not thinking and believing that it is. Another thing is that I loved there wasn't as many kills in this movie. Listen, I'm an avid Halloween Kills stan. I will ride and die with Halloween Kills until the day I die. The kills in that movie were so gory, and then you go to this movie and there's not that many kills and they're not as gory. I think everything about that was perfect for this movie because this movie was more character driven and not just focused on the kills like the last movie. Getting into my next thing, this, like I just said, this movie was more character driven with Laurie and Corey and Allison. I thought it was beautiful, beautiful. Again, with the character transformation since the last movie, and then the evolution of Corey's character just from the opening sequence to the end of the movie. I mean, this man completely flipped, and his character transformation, and the actor, I think his name is Rohan Campbell, amazing job, amazing performance. I also have to give it up to Andy Matichek, I think that's how you say her last name, who plays Allison. Badass in this movie. I think each of these characters besides Michael, I think we got the perfect amount of screen time with each of them. Now to get into what most people didn't like, the Corey storyline. I loved that they chose to go with something totally unexpected, and that was to have a character who killed a child 3 years ago on accident, and then have the town bully him and have all the bullying that the town of Haddonfield did to him, made that transform into becoming someone like Michael, literally becoming Michael because Michael possessed him. I thought that was just brilliant and amazing, and I loved Corey as a character. I really did not know what to expect when I first started watching the movie, and then as soon as I started picking up pace, I was like, oh, this I can get on board with, and I'm so glad they went in that route. Last thing that I absolutely adored and loved about this movie was the overall vibe of this movie. If you compare it to Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills, those movies feel like they belong together. Halloween Ends, yes, it is a continuation of this trilogy. It could easily be a movie on its own just because of the overall vibe of this movie, and a lot of that is because of John Carpenter's score. It's just brilliant. But the overall vibe of this movie did not feel like a traditional Halloween movie, and I freaking loved that about it. It took a chance, it went in a different direction than what most people expected, and they fucking did a great job with it. I don't know why people are giving this movie so much shit. They took a chance, and they absolutely killed it with what they did. My overall rating for this movie is 7.9 stars out of 10. I didn't feel right giving it an 8, but I didn't feel right giving it anything lower than a 7. I'm looking forward to trying to do more videos like this, trying to experiment with my content. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed and liked Halloween Ends. If you didn't, or if you did, please leave me your opinions down below and we can discuss this. Again, please don't leave any hate. These are my own opinions. You don't have to agree with them. Just respect them. I don't hate your opinions. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you all next time. Bye, everyone.